Today, me and my two other friends are going to be surviving 100 days in the brand new 1.20 Minecraft Hardcore update. How much can we achieve in these 100 days? Well, you're gonna have to stick around to the end to find out. Anyways, this is 100 days in 1.20 Minecraft Hardcore Trios Edition. And these 100 days begin by chopping down some trees for wood. We're going to need a lot of wood, but mainly so we can get some better tools, such as the wooden pickaxe. So then we can go ahead and get some stone so we can upgrade our tools once again and get a stone pickaxe, stone sword, and stone axe. But now it's time to go out and explore this world and see what this world has to offer. On our way, collecting more food because we are going to need a lot of this. We continued running around and eventually off in the distance we found a village, so we made our way towards it. And now that we're in the village, we can start taking things from the village. I mean, borrowing. Yeah. We looted chests, took hay bales, and just continued going around in the village until we had everything we needed. And for the rest of the day, we continued looting the village, completing various tasks until it was time to go to sleep. The following day, we started by crafting up some bread so we can get more food. And then me personally, I collected some iron from the iron golem. And after this, it marked the beginning of our journey looking for a biome. There was one specific biome that we wanted to look for, and if you know what was added in the 1.20 update, you might have a good idea on what we're looking for. If you still have no idea, here's a little hint. Think pink. Essentially, we're going to be pausing the world until we find this cherry blossom biome. But with the power of editing, we can get there very soon. On our way, one of my friends found a ruined portal, which in the chest, he got some gold armor and some iron nuggets. And not too long later, off in the distance, he came across the cherry blossom biome. That is right. Since one of my friends found the cherry blossom biome, we all had to run over to it. So for the rest of the day, we just started making our way over to the cherry blossom biome. Eventually, it turned nighttime, so we all went to sleep and then began the next day by clearing out our inventories into a chest. I myself crafted up an iron pickaxe, and then we started exploring around looking for a cave that we could use to get our iron armor. Not too long later, we started finding our very first caves. And with that came our very first bits of iron. We mined up the first bits of iron, and then we moved on to an even bigger and better mine, which had even more iron to mine up. We all mined some iron, collected it, and then continued exploring around the cave, collecting as much iron and coal and other materials that we may need in the future. Oh yeah, this was going great, and now we had a ton of iron to use, then we can all get full iron armor and iron tools. Very nice. We all began to make our way out of the caves and return back to the cherry blossom biome, so then we could go ahead and smelt up all the iron that we had just collected. And then using all of this iron, we went ahead and crafted up all the armor and tools. Now we're one step closer to becoming safer in this world. But now that we had all the armor and tools, it was time to start our next project in this world. Whilst Eloise, the builder of this team, would build up the house, myself and my other friend, we were going to go out and have a look for all the 1.20 update features. One would look for the sniff rag and the other would look for the camel. Though this isn't really important. The more important thing is the house that is currently being built up. Oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. So as Eloise started collecting all the materials to begin the house build, we just started running around and looking for all these brand new features. Hopefully it won't take us too long to find the sniffer and the camel, but knowing our luck, it's probably going to take like 400 years. By day 10, we were now 10% of the way through this 100-day challenge. The house was coming along nicely. Myself and my other friend had continued running around looking for the 2 new mobs added in the 1.20 update, and we were making some pretty good progress. Well, kind of. We definitely could have found the mobs a whole lot sooner. We've kind of been running around for a very long time already. The house was being built up. Obviously, we haven't been on a Minecraft world together in a while, so the build was going to be a bit rusty. But despite that, they continued building, and eventually the house was complete. Unfortunately, the entire house build wasn't recorded, so I can't really show you the entire building process, but at least I have some clips of it. What I can show you is our progress in finding the new 1.20 update features. Yeah, my friend had found himself in a warm ocean biome, and eventually found an ocean ruin where he could use the brush to brush over suspicious sand, and to his surprise, he got the sniff rag on his first try. On the other hand, I was still running. So whilst I was still running, my friend made his way back to the house, and by the following day, I had found exactly what I was looking for. The desert village. Why was I looking for the desert village? Well, here, I could take a good look at the camel. Unfortunately, though, I would not be able to bring this camel back home, since I was literally over like 4,000 or 5,000 blocks away from where our house was. And that doesn't seem very practical if you ask me. The camels are very slow. So whilst I was making my way back home, the others placed the sniff rag in order to hatch it. And whilst we wait for the egg to hatch, hatch, we could now begin the process of finding some diamonds. We actually wanted to test something out though. Which diamond mining method would be more efficient? One person would strip mine, whilst the other would go around huge caves looking for diamonds. Comment down below, what do you think would be more efficient? My two friends tested this theory out. Whilst I was running back home, yeah, I had a long journey ahead of me. One person would try strip mining, and they actually got some pretty insane luck. Although they didn't get diamonds very quickly, the vein of diamonds that they would actually receive were insanely large, so that kind of made up for the lack of diamond veins. On the other hand, the person running around the caves had the opposite luck. They were finding many diamonds, though they were relatively small veins, so they eventually got similar amount of diamonds in similar amount of times, if that makes any sense. Eventually, I got back home, so I went ahead and mined up some diamonds myself. I decided to go strip mining since I thought that would be a great idea since I'm lazy and I wouldn't have to move my mouse while mining up all the diamonds. Though, as it turns out, apparently my luck really sucks. It took me so long to get all the diamonds I needed. On top of that, the diamond veins that I would get were nowhere near as big as the ones that my friends who strip mined earlier got. Man, this game must hate me or something. My luck is just terrible. Anyways, now that we all had the diamonds to craft our full diamond armor, I went ahead and crafted up a diamond pickaxe. And using my diamond pickaxe, I could go ahead and mine up obsidian, which I can then use to craft an enchant table and build up a nether portal very soon. I was mining all this obsidian in a lava pool that I found near our base. And whilst I was mining this obsidian, the others could go ahead and start crafting up their full diamond armor and diamond tools. After I collected 14 obsidian, I made my way back home, crafted the enchant table, as well as my diamond armor and tools, and then we could all go ahead and enchant our loot to prepare for the nether. It was now time to enter into the nether. Building up a portal, we entered through to the nether and started looking around, bridging over to a ruined portal that we found over in the distance, and we even found a bastion with chests to loot, though the loot wasn't very good. In the bastion, I also collected a ton of gold blocks because why the heck not? And then we continued to just run around for a good amount of time, eventually finally coming across a nether fortress. With this nether fortress, we could now collect the blaze rods that we were going to need to get to the end later on. I personally couldn't be bothered dealing with the nether fortress, so whilst the others collected the blaze rods, I was off in a warped forest collecting ender pearls by defeating a ton of endermen. I did also get quite low on health in some situations, but I'm better than that. I would never die to something as trivial as an enderman. But guess what? We are not leaving the nether just yet. Instead of going home with the ender pearls and blaze rods, we were going to be collecting wither skeleton skulls. And I'm sure you can decipher why we would need such items. But anyways, I ran over to the nether fortress whilst the others were killing the wither skeletons themselves, and then eventually I could start attacking the wither skeletons myself. Yep, this was a very long and boring process. Just walking around the place, collecting skulls and stuff. Anyways, 3 skulls later, we collected some soul sand and then decided to go back home since we literally had everything we needed. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention we collected some more ender pearls before leaving anyways, yada yada. Moving on. Once we got back home, we went underground and started mining out a strip mine so we could easily defeat the wither. Now, one thing that I do need to mention is the following wither fight had to be recreated. That's why you won't be seeing anybody trying to defeat the wither in this fight clip video recording. Yeah, I had to re-record it after the entire video had been recorded since there was some problem. Moving on. With the wither now spawned in, I hit it with my sword as much as I could, and eventually I took the final swings defeating the wither. Now I had a nether star. But we don't end there. It is now time to prepare for the ender dragon fight. We did this by crafting up 3 bows, 1 for each of us. And then we crafted some eyes of ender to locate the stronghold. And with these eyes of ender, we could now run around and locate the stronghold. Yep, more running and exploring. Though it didn't take us too long to find the stronghold, that's a positive, I guess. Digging down, I found the library room where I looted some chests and took some bookshelves, which I would then take home to make a better enchant table later on in the future. And whilst I was mining up all these bookshelves, the others were spending their time trying to locate the portal room. Finally, the portal room was found, so we put all the eyes of ender in the portal and then went into the end. You've all seen the end fight so many times. We broke crystals, shot at the dragon with a bow, swung at it with our sword, and finally taking the final bow shots to defeat defeat the dragon. Then we collected the XP and the dragon egg, and now it's time to go and explore the outer end islands, fort, and cities, since we now wanted to get our hands on the elytra, as well as all the other goodies that come with the elytra, including the shulker boxes, the loot from the chests, the ender dragon head. You get the point. Eventually, we all found end cities, and we went straight up to the end ships where we could defeat the shulker boxes, loot some chests, but more importantly, collect the elytra. Then we all went back home. Upon arriving back home, we wanted to start something else. Well, kind of. We just went out looking for armor trims. That's about it. We mainly got armor trims from the shipwrecks that you would find in the ocean, since they were definitely by far the easiest method in trying to find the armor trims. It may not look the best, but we're not looking for fancy. We're just looking for armor trims. We also wanted to go ahead and find a jungle. So after exploring around for a very long time, we eventually found a jungle which was off in the distance. So we went over to it, collected bamboo, and now we could all go back home. Planting the bamboo so we could build something with bamboo blocks later. We then put the armor trims on our armor, and then after putting the armor trims on the armor, we decided to use some of the bamboo to just make a random structure. Yeah, I don't know what the heck we were thinking. We collected a bit more obsidian and then crafted up the beacon. And then as a throwback to the original Trio's 100 days, we decided to make a farm, you know, just like a casual wheat farm. If you've watched the very first Trio's video, you would know we did a lot of farming. In fact, that video probably consisted 90% of farming. Anyways, now that we had that farm, it was time to start something else. Yeah, it was now time to work on some automatic farms. Those that can be AFK'd and make us tons of loot. There are 3 farms that we were deciding to make, and those 3 are the basic mob farm, an iron farm, as well as an automatic sugarcane farm, which could also be a bamboo farm if we really needed more bamboo. However, before we built these up, we had materials to collect. Each one of us started collecting materials for each farm. Yep, lots of material collection. Whilst I was in the caves grabbing some redstone, I actually ended up finding lots of diamonds as well. This was perfect because we were going to need a ton of diamonds later on, which you'll find out what these are for, obviously, later. The main material that we all had to collect was cobblestone, so that took up most of our time when gathering all these materials. We also needed to go into the nether to collect materials such as quartz, since we were going to use this for things like observers. A lot of the other materials were quite easy to collect, just kind of annoying and very time consuming. At least while one person started collecting materials, the others could start working on their farms. But now that the materials had been collected, it was time to go ahead and build up the farm. And first, we had the mob farm. We got this design from Shulkercraft. I don't think they actually made the farm, they just did a video on it. This farm is supposedly going to make us over 10,000 mob drops per hour, but we will have to put that to the test later on once it's fully built up. If you haven't already noticed, this farm build was actually done with some like stop motion sort of recording thing. I don't know, I thought it would look cool when I finished the edit. But eventually, the farm was complete, so let's put that stop motion thing to the test and see how cool it really looks. Interesting. Now it was time to build up the iron farm. This was going to be a bit more complicated to build up than the mob farm, since we were going to need a lot of villagers to build the farm up. But we'll get to that later. This farm mainly consisted of a massive hole in the ground, yeah, and then we had to dig like 30 blocks down, just so we could do the collection area. But eventually, it was time to move the villagers over. Woohoo. The most exciting part. Since the village wasn't too close to us and there was a ton of mountains in between us and the village, we were going to have to use up all of our iron supply to move the villagers over using rails and minecarts. We had to place the railway system from our house to the village, and then we had to individually move all the villagers back to our base. But eventually, after quite a long time of painful, and I mean painful villager moving, the second farm was complete. It was fully done. So let's get that stop motion replay real quick. And now that farm's done, we could now move on to the sugarcane farm. It's very basic. There's really not too much to talk about here. Want to know a fun fact? It's currently 1 in the morning and I'm doing this voiceover and editing this video so I could get it out in time. You're welcome. Please subscribe. Boom! Stop motion replay. Alright, there we go. The farms were now complete and it was time to use them to gather some materials. We really only needed the gunpowder and iron from these farms, since the gunpowder would be used for TNT later on when we'd go netherite mining, and the iron would be used to craft up iron blocks for the nether beacon. Whilst one of us went AFK gathering materials, the rest of us found ourselves in the nether looking for bastions, so we could gather some netherite upgrade templates. Yeah, the 1.20 update made netherite mining a whole lot more complicated to get. I ended up being the first one to find a bastion, so I went inside looting it. I fought off some mobs and got the very first netherite upgrade template. I looted the rest of the bastion a little bit more, but ultimately I didn't really get too much else from this bastion. It was around this time that my other friend had found another bastion. He looted multiple chests without any luck, but as he was leaving, he found one last chest. And to our surprise, he was very, very lucky. He had found another netherite upgrade template. And again, here is where things get a little complicated. The recordings were paused and are now unusable. So I'm going to try my best to recreate some of the occurrences. Now that we had the templates, we all went back home and we started going diamond mining. Since 2 netherite upgrade templates was just simply not going to be enough, we had to duplicate them. In the real world, we actually ended up mining over a stack and a half of diamonds, which allowed us to get 15 or 16 netherite upgrade templates. I can't really remember. But moving on from this, we then went ahead and collected some sand, so we could craft up some TNT using the gunpowder that we got from AFKing the mob farm earlier on. Using this, we went straight into the nether to go ahead and start mining for some netherite. We used around 3 stacks of TNT in the nether, mining tunnels, blowing up TNT, and collecting a ton of ancient debris. We just continued going around the nether, trying to find as much ancient debris as we could get with the limited amount of TNT that we currently had. And in the end, from this mining trip, we had all gathered up enough ancient debris so everyone was able to get full netherite armor, as well as a few extra pieces of ancient debris to spare. Using this, we went home and started smelting up all the ancient debris, which would turn it into the netherite scraps. And then using the netherite scraps and our massive amounts of gold, we crafted up some netherite ingots, 12 to be exact. Just enough to get everyone the full netherite armor. And well, obviously, we then went ahead and upgraded our armor to netherite. And at this point, that is it for the bugged out recordings. Everything else should be fine, but take that very lightly. That's what happens when you start rushing a video to get it out on time. Now that we had all the upgraded tools and armor and stuff, we could start working on the next project. Since with all these tools, it would allow us to complete the goals a lot faster, I guess. But pretty much now that we got the villagers from the iron farm earlier and we had direct access to the village, we wanted to start a villager breeder, and then obviously we can use that villager breeder to make a villager trading hall. So to start off this process, we started digging out a hole in the middle of a mountain, because why the heck would we build something on the top of the surface when we could just push them in the middle of a mountain? Yeah. So we dug out the massive hole and then we placed a ton of beds in, and then we started moving all the villagers over from the other village using the railway, of course. I don't think you guys understand how much iron was used for this. Anyways, we moved 2 villages over and then we started breeding them with all the wheat and the other materials that we had from the farm that we built a few days ago, and then we just let them do their thing. And whilst we waited for the villagers to breed, we could start working on the villager trading hall. Just like the villager breeder, we're going to be throwing the newly born villagers into the side of a mountain. Yeah, very humane. Mainly, we were doing this because of how much easier it would be to actually make this villager trading hall. By digging into the middle of the mountain, we wouldn't actually have to bother making the outside look aesthetically pleasing. Like a normal house, take the house that we built as an example of this, if you can call that as... Anyways, obviously, this hole that we were digging out was going to have to be way bigger than the villager breeder, since we had to make room for the villagers to individually have their own spaces where they could then be traded with. Once the hole was dug out, we then used some leaves and oak wood and other stuff to somewhat decorate the interior. In the end, this place started to look pretty decent. All we really needed to do now was breed the villagers more and then move them into their new homes, where they would then be trapped for the rest of their lives, ready to trade with us whenever we wanted. To begin this trading hall, we only got a farmer and a librarian villager, where we then started getting a mending trade with the librarian and a pumpkin trade with the farmer. The pumpkin trade was easy to get, however, on the other hand, the mending trade was not. Also, now that we had those villagers, we could now work on making a pumpkin farm, since we were going to require lots of pumpkins in order to trade with the villagers for emeralds. Yes, more farming. We are truly making the old version of ourselves proud with this amount of farming. Yeah. With the few days that we had left, there were still a few goals that we wanted to complete. The first goal was to get the maxed out beacon. And obviously, since we'd been AFKing the iron farm, we were able to fulfill this goal. Collecting all the iron from the collection system, we went ahead and crafted up a ton of iron blocks. And then we placed the iron blocks to succeed in making the maxed out beacon. Next, we wanted to go ancient city hunting. The main reason for this is for those enchanted golden apples. Though we would have to be really careful. Since we didn't have any totems of undying, we literally couldn't make any mistake. Any mistake would literally cost us the entire world. And after everything we had achieved so far, there was literally no room for these mistakes. I mean, unless we want to upload this video in the year 2030 or something. Yeah, I don't think so. We found ourselves in an ancient city, looting chests, and all of a sudden, a warden spawned. We ran away, trying to stay as quiet as possible in order to not evoke the warden. Any wrong moves, and the world would be over. After a few painstaking minutes, luckily the warden had despawned, so we could continue on with our journey through all the ancient cities. Looting all the chests, we were getting more and more stacked. During our ancient city hunting moments, or whatever you want to call it, we actually spawned the warden in a few more times. However, in the chests that we would loot, we found the rarest armor trim twice, and we also got a ton of enchanted golden apples. So to be honest with you, in the moment, these wardens meant nothing to us. You also may have noticed that this entire time, only one person has been in this ancient city. That's because we were all looking for ancient cities. Different ones, that is. Eventually, I found an ancient city where I could start looting stuff. I also got a few items, but I wouldn't say my ancient city exploration was as successful. Ultimately, in the end, this is the loot Eloise got, and this is the loot I got. Pretty decent, I'd have to say so myself. Unfortunately, our other friend couldn't actually find an ancient city, and not too long later, we found ourselves on day 100. But we do not end there, because first of all, we literally had to run back home. But we're not going to be ending on day 100. You see, as a little throwback to the original 100 Days Trios edition, we have to make a cake. But to do this, we were going to have to collect a few materials. We quickly gathered them all, like the milk, the sugar, the wheat, the eggs, all that stuff, and then we put it together in a crafting table to craft up the cake. We then placed it down, and as the sun sets on day 100, that was it for the 100 days in 1.20 Trios Minecraft Hardcore. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you enjoyed, you can always watch this video next.